I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase. There's nothing like snook hook sets at dawn or catching a tarpon in the moonlight. Find your next fishing trip made easy on fishingbooker.com and experience the magic of the Sunshine State or any other destination on your fishing bucket list. Book a blue water adventure in search of sailfish or go snapper fishing with the kids. With over 6,000 captains and trips to choose from, planning your next one just got a whole lot easier. Download the Fishing Booker app on the Google Play or App Store or visit them online at fishingbooker.com to book your trip today.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast, your home for deer hunting news, stories, and strategies. And now, your host, Mark Kenyon.
Welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast. I'm your host, Mark Kenyon. This is episode number 205. And today in the show, we are podcasting from Iowa and our 2018 shed camp. And in this one, we recap the highlights of our epic shed hunting weekend. We hear about a few of the crew's 2017 hunting seasons, and we laugh a lot. All right, folks, welcome to the Wired to Hunt podcast, brought to you by Sitka Gear. And as I just mentioned, today's podcast was recorded from our 2018 Iowa shed camp this past weekend. And joining me in it are my hunting buddies, Peter Lynch and Ross Hausman, who you've heard on the podcast before, and my good pal and founder of Huntera Maps, Ben Harshine. But before we get to the contents of this week's episode, I want to drop a quick announcement here. If you're listening to this right around the time this podcast launched, I've got some quick news to share. This Saturday, March 17th, 2018, I'm going to be recording a live podcast at the Ohio Deer and Turkey Expo in Columbus, Ohio, from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Sitka Gear booth. So that's this Saturday, March 17th, 2018, at the Ohio Deer and Turkey Expo at the Sitka Gear booth, and the plan is to have a panel of guests for that podcast, including guys like Adam Hayes, Ben Rising, John Eberhardt, and probably a few more, and we're going to have free beer. You heard that right, we're going to have free beer. We're going to have a bunch of giveaways for some awesome Sitka gear. We're going to have time for some Q&A, and it's just going to be a really good time. So be there if you can. Like I said, 3 to 5 p.m. at the Sitka Gear booth. That's March 17th, 2018, and this is in Columbus, Ohio. And if that's not enough, the party is going to continue after that at the Backcountry Hunters and Anglers Pint Night happening that night at Wolf's Ridge Brewing, which is also in Columbus, Ohio, and that's going to be from 6 to 10 p.m. And there, we're going to have a bunch of fellow hunters and anglers getting together for a good time. There's going to be some raffles, I hear, for more Sitka gear, some auctions, maybe even some more free swag, and, the chance to get some good beer and good food and talk hunting with a bunch of buddies, myself, some of my friends from Sitka Gear, and who knows what else. I just know it's going to be a really good time. So again, it's going to be a blast, and I hope to see you all there. And now for this podcast itself, as I mentioned earlier, this is just a really fun podcast. It's more or less just a big BS session, but man, did we have a blast. We talked through the shed hunting weekend, we told a lot of funny stories, and then we moved into the 2017 hunting season for each of these guys too. So we dissect some of their successes, we discuss some of the mistakes, we dive down all sorts of weird rabbit holes too. So if you're in a mood for a good laugh and some hunting camp vibes, I think you're really going to enjoy this one. So let's pause briefly for our Sitka Gear story of the day, and then we'll get right into the main event. I hope you guys enjoy this one as much as we did recording it, because man, it was an absolute blast.
For this week's Sitka story, we're joined by Chase Rutherford, who tells us about getting to tag along on a bighorn hunt.
It was a 10-day hunt. I was filming Patrick Scroggin on his Rocky Mountain bighorn hunt in Wyoming. Patrick was in the Army. He lost his leg in a helicopter crash. So it was a very tough hunt for him. But we rode in 9.5 hours into the coolest terrain in the thoroughfare, which is the most remote place in the lower 48. We had hunted every day for 4 days, and we ended up seeing some rams. Patrick ended up missing one. It was an emotional day, but we kept pushing. And on the 8th day, we set out at 2 a.m. in the morning and headed up straight up this crazy mountainside. Our horses were slipping, and it was crazy with the possibilities of dying. We finally got to the top, and just as the light hit the top of the mountain, the ram showed itself. And that's when Patrick got off the horse, and we were able to crawl up, and he made a 350-yard shot. It was really emotional seeing Patrick accomplish this hunt. It's something I'll never forget.
On Chase's hunt, he was wearing Sitka's Jet Stream jacket. If you'd like to create a Sitka story of your own, or to learn more about Sitka's technical hunting apparel, visit sitkagear.com.
What are we going to talk about? I assumed we would talk about what we've just been doing, just chiropractic best practices, right?
Yeah. Does your tracker track how long a motion so things sat still? Like
What?
time? Because there was a certain amount of time when we were not walking because we didn't find anything, so we sat down by the creek.
Oh, does
By
the
the river.
GPS tracker
the
on
mobile
the mobile
map.
map?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be pretty slick.
Yeah, we were walking the whole time. Well, according to this, you guys were sitting on your ass a few minutes at a time.
Yeah. So, we're recording a podcast now.
Oh, we are.
Welcome to the Wired Hunt Podcast, brought to you by Sitka Gear. And what we're talking about is the Iowa Shed Camp of 2018 for Shed Rally. We're down here in an unknown region of Iowa.
Yes.
And we've got Ross Hausman.
Hostman.
Ross Haas is here with
We
us.
do this every time.
We have Peter Lynch.
Yes.
He's chiropractor number 2. Chiropractor number 1 was Ross Hausman. Chiropractor number 2 was Peter Lynch.
And that's not all of them.
And yeah, we lost Corky.
Yes.
We lost Corky. And then we also have Ben Harshan.
Who was
I'm
a
the-
chiropractic recipient.
Yeah. That was like my tip for hosting
Do you
guys.
want to describe what just happened here?
So, obviously in the presence of some fine chiropractors here, and I'd just been thinking all day, man, I got to get adjusted again. And wouldn't you know, come in here and I feel great. I think my cold is gone because of you.
Well, he's like,
And I literally just scheduled, right?
Yeah.
I just scheduled my first. So there we go.
Yep. Now I want to give you guys a chance. Do either one of you want to promote your chiropractic practices to the fellow Iowa residents? This is your one and only chance.
Yeah, why not? I mean, this is the biggest podcast in the world. So we'll do Dubuque, Iowa, Tri-States Chiropractic, Dr. Peter Lynch.
All right, there
Thanks,
you go.
Mark.
Yeah. Ross, he's like, nope.
You're a man of humility. Come on.
He doesn't want
That's
people.
all right.
He doesn't want people to look him up and where he hunts. So,
Exactly. Thank you, Peter.
yeah.
Too much info.
So we're down here in Iowa shed hunting. It's Shed Rally. And Ben, the founder of Huntera and a Whitetail Properties land specialist as well, was so very, very kind to host us on his property.
Extremely grateful. Thank you.
Yeah, that was pretty
Yep, that was
incredible.
blast.
Thank you guys for coming
Thanks,
down.
Yeah, thanks for letting us come down.
Yeah, so we spent the day shed hunting. We did a lot of walking. It was a fun day. So I thought since some of us are still here together, we could drink some beer and coffee and talk about the day, talk about Shed Rally, talk about the shed hunting, and then maybe catch up a little bit on how everyone's seasons went too. Since none of you guys have been on the podcast, you've all been on the podcast before,
Yes.
but none of you have been on since this last season, so no one knows what happened. So, Ben, do you want to talk a little bit about? We've talked about Shed Rally a little bit, but what was the gist? from
Yeah,
your
some people
perspective
may
that we
not
were
have
doing
followed today, you know.
Yeah,
So
what was this about?
Shed Rally is the world's largest shed hunt, where anybody that wants to go on a scavenger hunt and find antlers, you know, whitetails cast their antlers every winter, and you go and look for them. And it doesn't matter if you're a seasoned hunter, or you've got people that never intend on killing an animal, but they still want to get out and enjoy Mother Nature. I mean, we had several people with us today that they don't ever want to hunt, but they really enjoyed themselves. So that's what Shed Rally is all about. It was a campaign originally created by Whitetail Properties, and the idea is to get out there, enjoy creation, and use the hashtag as you're posting on social media, whether it's Facebook or Instagram. Hashtag Shed Rally, all your pictures, and it's just a big event for camaraderie and to celebrate the animal that we all love. And I guess it's not even just whitetails. I mean, mule deer too, and elk and whatnot. I saw a lot of elk sheds actually today on social media too. So that's what it was all about. And I decided, hey, why don't we just get a big party together and go hit this new farm that I have access to, and that was we had a great day. Started a little slow, right?
Yeah,
A little slow.
I was worried. Yesterday, we were walking somewhere, and the three of me, Ross, Peter, and Corey, and because Adam was with us at one point.
Kendall stopped by too.
Kendall was with us for a little bit, and we didn't find a single thing. So we started worrying, if this doesn't go any better, we're going to have to call this Friend Rally instead of Shed Rally. And just give me a bunch of pictures of us high-fiving and hugging, and this is a good time, having friends. But luckily some sheds got involved today, too.
Yeah.
So there was a big group of us.
There's 12, right?
12?
I think there was 12, including Jack. He was the youngest one. My boy is
awesome.
2 years old on his first shed hunt. So we had a great tribe. You guys came down, and Dan, Dan was there. He brought Sarah.
He bailed on us for the podcast.
Yeah, man, that guy's busy.
He is.
He's kind of a big deal.
Yeah,
But at least he got to walk for a little bit.
He big leagued us,
Yeah.
big leagued us.
Yeah.
But no, we started the day off. We all got together and we rallied up on top of this big ridge. So we were hunting. Basically, this farm lays out as it's a big farm, but there's
It is
a
an incredible
lot
farm.
a
It's
lot
awesome.
of corn. There's a lot of tillable ground on it. So we got up on top of this ridge today, was on the cornfield, and rallied and had some donuts and laid the map out and made a game plan. Kind of zoned it out. I think we had 3 teams.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
3 teams. We all scattered out, and we didn't. We covered some pretty good ground until we found that first one, which was you. You broke the ice.
Yep.
And then soon after, Ryan
Yeah.
matched it up.
Yeah, so we walked a lot of good-looking stuff. We walked that
Yeah.
big ridge top down, then we went to the bottom, walked a bunch of grassy terraces and buffer strips, and I kept thinking, man, we were seeing a lot of sign. Saw some poopies.
And we were all over edge.
Yeah.
We were just walking all kinds of edge,
Yeah.
thick stuff where it transitions from, your classic timber. Then you've got a bunch of regrowth and grasses, and then you've got your crop fields. And a lot of times, those deer, as they're browsing overnight, they'll go in the field for a little while and eat, and then go and lay down on those buffer strips, and then they'll come back in. And a lot of times, that's where you find your sheds, right? We covered a good bit of that today until we found our first one.
Yeah. So that first one was
that was the icebreaker, though.
yeah, when you've got such a big group, lots of times we have to kind of plan it out. Okay, you take this line, you take that line, you take that line. Otherwise, it'd just be a mess of people scrambling around. So you had Jack on your back, so you kind of took the top of the field. And so my line was I was going to walk just inside or just outside the edge of all these points that were coming out. It was almost if you took your fingers and stuck 4 fingers out parallel. That's kind of what this field and finger structure looked like. So I was walking all these edges, and I don't know, the 3rd or 4th one, at the very end of the finger of corn, there was a little strip of grass before you dropped down to the timber. And sitting right there, tines up, was that beautiful crown. Nice, fresh, 4-point side. Excuse me, not long after that, moments almost, you could hear Ryan making some noise down in the timber, and so I started heading that direction to see what was going on, and he'd found a shed. So I walked down there, and maybe it was 100 yards down the point, and he pulled out this little ditch the other side.
Yeah.
So within a couple minutes, we found both sides right there, not 100 parts apart, and 100 yards. And
Yeah, right
That's
before
good.
then we headed into lunch on a high note, right? We all rallied back together for lunch. We had a good spread, and
Thank
You
you,
know.
for also for the food for your wife and you bringing all that
She just enjoys doing that.
sorts
you
of
know.
goodies.
She loves hosting people and making people feel good. You know. So
She did a good job.
yeah, thank you.
And Dan's wife found one too.
Yeah, yeah. So Sarah found
Field edge.
the
She
other
found
one
that
on a
little
field
3.7.
edge. So that was 3 we had
Before lunch, yeah.
before lunch. We all got back together.
What kind of acreage did we cover in that?
We covered a lot.
I think we walked. I wasn't walking as much as I know Mark was. I think I had 3 miles on the mobile map around lunchtime.
Yeah.
About 3 miles,
Yeah.
and you guys might have covered more.
2.6 according to that feature on your.
Do you want to describe that's kind of a cool feature?
That was actually cool.
Yeah, so we're talking about the Huntera mobile map. It's the Huntera that a lot of people know of is the Terra image, the aerial photography and the 3D terrain model that we put together so you can see all the natural rises and falls in the terrain of your ground. We translate that from the printed map into the mobile map. And it's an application, it's a third-party application you load into there, but one of the features is it has GPS tracking, so it simply tracks where you walk. And it can tell you, it's really precise, but it also tells you the distance too. So that's just, it's a phenomenal tool. We all were running it in our crew today, so we got to see where we covered and where we didn't. And I mean, that can be great for shed hunting, but that can also be good for, if you're tracking a deer too.
Yeah.
So.
You've always, I've heard you talk about that and say that. I never used that feature of it before, or never really realized the utility of it until today. And when I could actually look and see where we really walked, that was really cool.
Pretty
to
cool, yeah.
Visualize that, to really see that representation. I really like that. So I think from now on, whenever I shed hunt,
Yeah, I thought that was
it's a great way to just know what you covered, where you went, see how far you went. We always talk, I bet you we walked 5 miles. I
Right.
bet we walked 10 miles. Well, now we can see exactly.
Yeah.
That was cool.
And I was, you can drop pins too. So I was marking where, some of these big hub scrapes were and some good signs, some good crossings and whatnot. Still trying to learn the farm because we don't know too much about it, to be honest with you. So
That's what was fun today because, we didn't find a lot of sheds in the beginning, but we're able to get you information.
Absolutely.
Which you'll appreciate down the road. So,
absolutely. Yeah, you guys all came to me and said, man, you got to check this one spot out. Big beds here, and this is why I think he's bedding here. Rubs, scrapes, stamps, locations. I mean, it's awesome. That's what it's all about, right? We're all getting together and just, sharing each other's wisdom, and we had a hell of a time today.
Yeah, we did. I should have sent you the
Worn
video.
out.
Peter sent me a video of Corey
explaining.
giving us scouting tips. They were talking through what were you guys describing?
Just
The rubs. How about the rub?
Oh, that was
Yeah.
awesome too.
That was awesome.
Corey he's pretty, the way he thinks, it's like a buck. And we found these.
Who's Corey, by the way?
Corey.
You mean
Coco.
Corky.
Corky, yeah.
Coco. Corky.
There was these rubs in a ditch, and it made no sense why the deer would go down there.
It was down in like a steep, skinny ditch, like in
Yeah.
between these 2 beds right here.
Yeah.
Like
And
this cluster of rubs.
And then another 20 feet, you could walk around on the grass, and it didn't make any sense why. So I'll let you finish the story, what Corey said.
Oh well, yeah. He basically, his thoughts were this deer's, he's there's probably some does out in the crop fields, and one of them, maybe a couple of them are getting ready to come and heap it. They're not quite ready yet, and he's getting worked up.
Yeah, it's
right?
probably like early 20s or early 20s of October where the deer are starting to.
Yeah, and they're starting to rub, and get fired up for the rut to come up, and he's already got the testosterone going through him. And this, Corey described this buck as probably one that, is probably pretty aggressive, and is I'm just going to drop right down into here right now, and not leave this situation. I'll just drop right into this ditch and rub the nearest trees,
And he's frustrated, like I'm ready to go, and the ladies aren't.
Yeah,
and,
so I'm just going to hang in this corner right here on the point of that
and
waterway.
destroy these trees for no good reason. Yeah.
And there were old rubs there too.
Yeah.
Really, that was
Just-
pretty
it was
remarkable.
weird.
I've never seen.
A lot of big rubs on this farm.
Yeah.
I noticed some big. I should have taken more pictures of them. There was a tree I saw, big old cedar or something, or white pine, if maybe. I mean, like a basketball diameter tree, tore up.
Yeah.
So there's some bucks in there, Ben.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we killed 2 dandies off of it this past year, and what's really cool is
Big giant bucks.
yeah, nice ones for sure. Not the one I killed, but another one of our friends we hosted this year. He shot a phenomenal buck on November 7th, I think it was. we called him the flyer buck, and he literally, off his G2 on his right side, had this big whale tail set of flyers coming off, and his G2 was forked like a tuning fork. I mean, just a lot going on his right side. Just awesome deer. And so he kills this thing, and then we found the sheds to it. We found the sheds, and we think it wouldn't have been last year's, but maybe the year before. So those things were sitting out there for a year. So super cool. Definitely him, 100% him with that big split flyer coming off, and we're going to surprise him with, we're going to surprise him with a gift in the mail here once we can get the tines glued back together.
That's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah.
So it's funny, we were eating lunch, and half the group had to leave. Like Dan and Sarah had to leave soon, and your wife and son, and your lease partner's wife, Ryan, the other Ryan had to go. And someone says, well, you know how it goes. As soon as we all leave, you guys are going to get into the sheds.
When you know it.
Mm-hmm.
When you know it. So Dan and Sarah were going to go walk this one area, and they had to leave early. So like, well, we're just going to go over there, and we'll walk a little bit, and then we're going to go. And then the rest of us were talking about going across the road or, I don't know, somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So we all piled into the four-wheeler and the UTV.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter decided to just strap on back behind Ryan on the
been a lot.
four-wheeler.
I felt like I was 18 again, riding on four-wheelers back in Michigan. And I'm like, wow, it's crazy.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, like, you felt like you're 18 going to prom again. You had your arms around him real tight.
Yeah, it felt good, security.
You guys had a good bonding experience.
Oh, Robin's racing.
So I feel a little bad for Dan.
Well,
Do you feel, or
no,
should we not feel bad for Dan?
No, well, here's what happened. I was physically there, and he was telling Ryan, we're going to walk this timber right here.
Okay.
And where we were wasn't really timber, right?
True.
Right.
Yeah.
Good point.
So I think it all equaled out. It all equaled out in the end. So, Ryan and I just went where he was parked, and we went straight through the corn, headed for some. It's probably not the best ground to walk, like this beautiful prairie grass where the deer are going to lay during the middle of the night while they.
Sure, you didn't. I wondered. They're like, wow, where are they going? Because I did think we were going across the road, and then all of a sudden,
we made
they start
turn
down and went towards.
We said, let's go check this different style of ground out that we haven't looked at yet.
Yeah.
And man, we ran into.
We've had success, Ross and I, in a different part of the country, hunting that kind of stuff, like he talked about in the past.
Buffer strips and waterways.
Yeah, that's where we kind of
So
gravitate.
it's where you've got these fields, and then you've got these grassy strips, waterways coming down towards the bottoms, towards these big timbered draws. Mm-hmm. And so we go running towards one of those. You're in the four-wheeler. We're on the UTV behind you.
Yeah.
And what happened?
He's pull off a little bit, 10 feet in, and I jump off. I look straight down. I go, G2. He goes, kind of looked at me like, no. I go, yeah, G2, about 60 yards. He looks down like, holy explanation. And he's like,
I can't believe you saw
that. I'm like, damn, that's a big one. Yeah, got some ice today. So, and then within 5 minutes, he glassed, tried to find the other one, and he found a smaller one just underneath the tree at the same time. So
they were like 30 yards away.
Yeah. So it was fun.
So we go running down, and literally it was right where Dan was walking towards them.
I did feel bad.
Yeah, I looked to the right, and here he comes up.
Dan.
So it was on Dan's path. So I took over Corey's job of sniping.
Yeah, I'm sure Dan's going to mention you in the next podcast
probably.
he's on.
Yeah. It's all right. I adjusted him last time. So
that's true.
Yeah.
You adjusted Dan?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like an initiation. Like I'm part of your guys' brotherhood.
You are now part of it.
Okay.
Yeah. We have a lot to offer.
My neck feels phenomenal right now. So
we did. I got a good little adjustment there by Ross Haas as well, and that was impressive.
Just for headaches and shoulder pain, that's not normal. You can get that looked at.
You're saying it's not normal for us to be in pain all the time?
Yes.
And having headaches all the time?
Yep, something can be done.
The stress of a business owner, right?
Yeah.
All adds up into those muscles.
Yeah.
Huh? Mm-hmm. We're going to work on that.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It's a work-life balance, Mark.
You're right. Us entrepreneurs, we got to keep things figured out, I guess.
Yeah.
But so all chaos broke out after you found that shit.
Which was cool. I went down there and kind of did our thing. We couldn't pick it up right away, and all of a sudden, then we found Ryan's other one. And all of a sudden, we started. Then once but the experience center is like, oh, we're in a.
This is one
what
of
are
those
we
spots.
In, Ross? What kind of spot?
Where we're. Better bring the mic up. Mike.
Yeah. We're in a glory. What's it called?
Glory hole.
Yeah,
yeah, it probably was a glory hole.
Glory hole.
It could be called that.
Yes, that was definitely a glory hole.
So Coco, you can see Coco's heads perk up. He's like, the pace started to quicken.
You get this like this. It's a shed FOMO is what I call it.
Yeah.
Fear of missing out. When you know you're in a glory hole, a shed glory hole, all of a sudden you're like, okay, where is it? Where is it? You know it, and so everyone starts walking faster. Nobody takes as much time to take
like
pictures
a bomb.
of the sheds. Yeah.
And people just scatter.
It was chaos.
Yeah.
Everyone
was
was
incredible.
Like, all right,
Well, you ran up the hill and you found one right away, and then somebody found the match to that.
Well, it's funny because we're all surrounding this shed. The first one we found post lunch, and it was a dandy, right?
Yeah.
We're all surrounding it like this is the first antler we've ever seen.
Yeah,
right? We're all like taking pictures of it close, and then it's like
a few autographs went out even. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
crazy.
yeah, some chest bumps, and the next thing you know, we look up and there's another one, and then there's another one, and then we're like,
the race is off.
Oh, geez, that's only a 30-inch side. Move on to the next one.
And Corky took off running because he was getting all excited. And then what happened next, Peter?
Well, then, since I found a nice shed, I'm like, well, we're all here to find, so I'm going to go up on the top of the hill, and I'll just take a second or two, and I'll just glass the field edges because we're in a hot spot, and nobody likes the corn anyway, so I'll glass, and I'm glassing like 30 yards off Corey's left-hand side into the shorter
grassy strip.
You already walked past it though, so it's fair game.
It kind of was. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, in your HD binoculars, everything looks huge. I'm like, oh shit! And Corey's like, I can see Corey's like, it was so close to him. I felt bad for a second, and
For once.
yeah, I ran up there and it was pretty nice. I was like on top of the world.
That was a nice shot.
You were on fire,
Yeah,
man.
That was a really good one.
Two really nice ones.
Like if it was NBA Jam, you would be.
Yeah.
He's heating up.
Heating up.
And then he's on fire.
Yeah.
Is it the shoes?
I was Bo Jackson in the Tecmo Bowl. Yeah.
So you found the one from the forward, then Ryan spotted the small one underneath the tree,
Yeah.
and then we walked up and someone found another small one. Did you see the small one?
I think. It was
Yeah, I
you.
found a
Yeah.
little dinker.
You found the small
Who
one.
found the match right after that?
And then someone found the match. Corey found
Corey
the match.
did.
But
Then he just
gave it to you.
Yeah, gave it to me.
Oh,
And
then Corey
then
did find one. Good for
Corey
him.
did find one,
Yeah.
but he gave it up. And then not long after that, you spotted that big one.
Yeah.
And then did they find another little one over there? And this is all in like a
This is 10
100-yard
minutes.
area.
10
Yeah.
minutes.
100-yard
They were
square
all
area.
in there.
10 minutes.
But what's interesting is the two studs that we found, that you found, we couldn't match them up.
Right.
No, so
You
they're
know?
out there somewhere.
Yeah, they're out there. And then so Dan, he's like, "Peace out on you guys."
Yeah,
He's
it was
like,
funny
I'm out of
because
here.
as we look at it, I thought he might have went back to his car and they had to leave.
Right.
And little do we know,
They continued on.
they continued to greener pastures, so
Yeah.
to speak.
Oh man.
And they ended up picking up 4 all nice ones.
Yeah. That one that Sarah found, I think, is got to be the most genetically superior one. I mean,
Yeah.
no more than 3. Could have been a 2-year-old, and it was a
Big 5-point
big
set, right?
frame. Yeah, big
Yeah.
4 on it. I mean, that was pretty neat seeing a
we were-
good variety.
We were
you know?
walking up from a distance. It was Ross and I. Anyway. Yeah, no, Ryan was with us, and I thought they were waving 70s around. They looked huge
Yeah, they
from a
were big.
distance. Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome. They found 4 good ones, and then we all kept looking, and then me and Ben, we found the old ones. You found the old flyer one, and I
Yeah.
found a really nice old one.
Well, you ran into
along
that.
this.
The first one you ran into was
That was one of the bigger sheds I've ever
Oh,
found.
yeah.
I wish it was
Awesome.
fresh. I mean, for
It's
some
weird,
reason,
isn't it weird how if it's not fresh,
for
it's
some
not the
reason,
same?
it being old, it just feels a
Right.
little bit
Yeah.
sub whatever it would have been before. But still, I mean, probably a 60-inch side.
yeah.
But just bleached white. You know, it's a little bit lighter weight after they've been up there for a while,
Yeah.
but still awesome to find that.
And then not long after that, the flyer buck we find bleached up. It
Same
was actually
thing.
cracked. Like the flyer was broke off of him, but it was right there.
Was that field edge? I mean, how did it get run over?
Yeah. Field edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, field edge up against the fence, basically, and some grass right there. Must have drug some sort of implement across to snap it like that. But it was all still right there, and the fracture was like a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
You know, like a carpenter's router or something.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to be able to get that thing back together. So that was just
cool.
super cool.
it's awesome.
You know, it's not all the time when you close. You know, you kill a buck and then you find his shed afterwards, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And then things slowed down
Right.
after that, though.
Yeah.
We
Came-
went
we came
across
back
the road.
down. Yeah.
You know,
Back to reality.
and we found one more after that.
Pete.
Oh, yeah, I
Peter,
did.
you found that
Found
one.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be a nice buck. That was probably, I think it was 1.5. Split
Yeah.
G2.
Yeah, framed up.
Yeah.
Split G2?
Solid frame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Split bro.
Wow. Oh, Broward.
Excuse me, Broward. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow. Way off.
G1.
Yeah, G1.
Not bad. So how many was that? 15 sheds?
15 total, I think.
And all in the last 3-4 hours of the day?
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Most of them were in like an hour and a half, or hour even.
There's got to be a few more out there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's definitely still more sheds out there for you guys to find.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so it was cool to do that, and man, the scouting is this is just such a great time to go out there. All the drab colors of late winter, especially when you get some moisture and there's some mud, and these deer trails just stick out like a sore thumb, and you can just get on these things and figure out parts of your property without really affecting it. Whenever it comes time to hunt. You can do so much homework right now. It's the most critical time from a scouting perspective. People have said it before, but today was just a great example. I mean, we really covered a lot of stuff that we would not even think about walking in come hunting season. So,
do you feel like you learned some stuff today, even, combining shed hunting and scouting? Like you have some takeaways after today's walk and hearing from everyone?
Yeah, I mean,
from a hunting perspective?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this farm lays out completely different than the other property I hunt. And the other one's, it's a cattle farm. It's got CRP, and the cows are pastured in the timber. So you got a different ecosystem there, compared to this composition of this farm. It's classic brushy draws, creek bottoms, some hardwood ridges and knolls, and then a ton of crop ground. And it's completely different. So something I really keyed in on was where a lot of the kind of in between these fingers where you'd have, I don't want to say a transition area, but you can kind of tell there's a main trail coming out of the cover, and a lot of times you'll find before they hit into the wide open field, there will be maybe a grass patch there, or just kind of an open area, or where that edge is feathered into, it's not quite pure timber, but it's still a little bit of cover, and just as they're coming out, and there's almost always a scrape there, and that's pretty cool to remember down the road, to be able to maybe set some cameras and whatnot too. And I picked out a great tree to observation stand with Corey when we were heading towards you to go, when you picked up that nice one. We passed a cottonwood that would just be awesome. It'll be on anything south or west, but I basically can see that whole face that we walked this morning. Our team that we walked, that's a lot of ground, and I'll have to get up high, but man, what a great tree I found right there, and I can hopefully use that to learn, early in the season and figure out what bucks are coming out.
This farm will be so good for observation stands, like the views you have, especially like this year if it's all planted in beans, like the velvet footage and the velvet scouting you're gonna be able to do. Will just be primo.
Yes, it could be pretty good.
Then you got those white pines just as you enter. I thought that's unique.
Pretty little section there.
Yeah, I mean,
and Ross, how many?
Pretty random.
We saw quite a few.
Oh yeah, that was tore up in there.
Yeah,
that was super thick. You couldn't even walk. Did you guys ever walk through that or not?
I walked when we got a hold of that place last year. I walked. It'd be on the west end of it where the creek comes together, and we found a dead cow in there.
Oh.
Yeah.
But, oh, man, what a crossing right there. And it's crazy thick. There's some blowdowns.
A lot of signpost rubs in there.
It's all, tons of blowdowns, super thick.
Yeah.
Huge signpost rubs in there.
Kind of easy to overlook maybe,
it just seems like one of those overlooked areas where you pull your truck into the property,
right,
and
he's already
buck's laying there watching the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What a tricky spot, man, and it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. A deer would hang there and observe.
Yeah, it was awesome in there.
Yeah.
So what's the deal with this farm? I mean, when you picked it up, you got, it's a new lease, and you came into it. When did you figure out you were going to be able to hunt this place last year?
I think we walked it in, I want to say April.
Oh, so you didn't know in the spring.
I think it was in April. Yeah. Excuse me. We got to walk it right at the tail end before it got crazy thick.
Gotcha.
So we did as much scouting as we could, the two of us, on this place, and we set cams, but it just wasn't enough cameras to cover what's there, and basically we just wanted to, use the year to observe. And
But your first 2 kills were substantial.
Well, yes, I was going to ask, how'd your first season on the new property go?
yeah, I killed.
Rumor has it pretty well.
Right. Yeah, man, I was fortunate. I've been, I don't want to say snake bit. I've done it to myself, but I've messed up a couple deer since moving here. One in 2015 and one in 2016. Just didn't put good enough shots on them to kill them, and really started to battle some confidence issues. So I went back into the drawing board and taught myself, tried to reteach myself how to shoot, and I switched to a back tension release, and I think that helped me figure out how to execute
Did you
a
switch
shot.
to that just in practice, or did you actually use that in the field while hunting?
I used it in the field as well. Yeah, so I ended up getting a couple releases and running them from February. Started shooting in February basically, and on through, and really got comfortable with first the back tension. We're getting way off from my season, but
Sorry.
This kind of leads into it, and the back tension was a good way for me to execute a shot and a follow through and be comfortable with a surprise and not be okay with that pin just floating on the target, floating on the target and not have to be one specific spot and then fire,
Right.
So
Right.
Once I got through those demons and basically I picked this farm up and it's always nice to have options, but my other farm just does not hunt well with the north wind. I can only access it from the north, so I needed to find something where I could have better longevity throughout the season to be able to hunt. So we found this property and we can access it from all sides, and I hunted I hunted late October, 2 sits, 2 evening sits, and then November 2nd would have been my 3rd sit, and that's when I went in and hung a stand on a spot of the farm where I knew it would be a good bottleneck, and it was up against some really good cover. We called it the sanctuary, right? And it was an area that was timbered and years ago, and it's just really, really thick. One of the spots that Ryan and I remembered in April, and put on a really good rattling sequence there at 3 o'clock, and I was on the phone with my wife, and because she was in Italy, and I'm talking to her on FaceTime,
In the stand.
In the stand, yeah. So I rattled, and we didn't talk for like 5 days because of the time difference. So she calls me, like, I have to answer it, So I'm kind of leaning against a tree, just looking at her, we're talking, and in about probably 5 minutes, maybe a little bit more, here he comes out of the sanctuary. I could just see his crown and his black cap on his forehead. And I'm like, I remember telling her, oh, my God, here comes a giant. And I just stuffed the phone in my pocket. I don't even know if I hung up on her. I just stuffed the phone in my pocket. And he came in. He got behind a tree, and he was kind of looking. You could tell he didn't quite know where I was. So I feel like that rattling sequence brought him. I think when I rattled, he was far enough away, or he was out of it enough. Maybe he was just kind of, just chilling during the daytime, but he didn't come over right away, so he didn't quite pinpoint me. So when he came around, and a couple more grunts, that told him right where to go. And I drew on him at about 40 and followed him in, just followed his vitals on with the pin, and everything just really slowed down. And it goes back to that kind of reteaching myself to be comfortable with, at the moment of truth, and just was thankful I put a good shot on him. And I basically watched him go down, but I didn't quite see it. I gave him a couple hours and went back in and recovered him with my mom and with Jack. And as soon as I shot him, I called Kate back. I said, "I'm sorry I hung up on you, but I just put an arrow through a great deer." And that was just a cool moment. So
Boy, I imagine.
That's nice.
yeah.
Is that your biggest buck ever?
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
He was a stud.
Yeah. He's just a really cool deer. He's ancient.
Describe him. Describe the deer.
15 inches wide, pretty tall, mega heavy. Just the weight of his antlers in general was was the most impressive part. As a mainframe, he'd be a mainframe 9, but his what made him a 9-point was a crab clawed 4 on his left side, which is pretty cool. And it just kind of went out as like a classic curved crab claw, So as an 8, he, if he didn't have that as an 8-point, he would have been really impressive, right? But he threw a couple kickers and added more inches, but super heavy. We walked up on him and it was just like, oh my goodness, how are we going to get this thing out of here? And we drug him out, and the the celebration was on, man. It felt
How old
good.
do you think he was?
So without any history with him, I think he was probably 6+. He was just a hog.
Wow.
He was certainly in his prime. The jawbone, on the other hand, I'm not quite sure. If like the jawbone was looking more like 4, possibly 5, right? But then again, I'm not quite sure how good I am as far as scoring these things.
Right.
And, looking at a ton of jawbones, I don't have much history with. So I'm going to send the teeth in to figure out how old he was. But he was fully mature, and just one I was pretty pumped to put my tag around after.
Yeah.
After.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I would say so. That's awesome. And then you mentioned earlier another mega giant buck was killed on the property.
Yeah,
by
so
your
a couple days later,
right?
a couple days later, a buddy of ours from Michigan came down, and they were hunting kind of off and on throughout the season, and he came down and put an arrow through the flyer buck that we had pictures with in the summertime, and just a cool, like, I guess he'd be like a mainframe 8, but he had a bunch going on his 2. The flyer and a split and everything.
Big flyer.
Yeah, not a little guy for sure. So another really big animal, weight-wise, body-wise. So 2, dominant bucks that we killed off that farm. So, I mean, who knows, we might be dealing with a bunch of 4-year-olds this coming year, which is still a great problem to have, right?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
based off of the sheds we found, we found sheds from at least 5 different bucks that should be 4 or older this year, right? Mm-hmm. And we know there's probably a lot more.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, and that's not a representation of the only things that are living on there throughout the year. I mean, this is a great rut farm the way it lays out. It's something from the neighborhood could come scooting through here, and there's a lot of bottlenecks in it. So, hopefully we can have success this coming year.
Yeah, that shed I found. I'm curious to see what that looks like next year. That was real thick base.
Yeah,
good mass.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot imagine what life would be like hunting a farm with 5 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, it's right. It's all relative.
It is all relative.
It is all relative.
Yes.
I'm by no means being jaded by the circumstances of having that, right? But that's not. I mean, that's you could be chasing a couple 3-year-olds in Michigan and be having just as much of a unique circumstance, So
it's all dependent on where you're at, what you got, what's going on, and having a good time, right?
Absolutely.
So you talked about this big giant flyer buck. Here, Ross, you've got a story related to something like that. You want to tell us about your season? Because we had you on the podcast in fall 2016. We did that analyzing 4 successful rut hunts, that one podcast where we talked about my kill during the rut. We talked about Dan's kill during the rut. We talked about Corky's kill during the rut. And we talked about your kill during the rut that year. But we haven't had you on to talk about your 17 season. How'd that go down?
It was awesome year. I actually got a chance to kill a big flyer buck myself.
Give us the whole history, the story of this deer.
Whole history?
The whole thing.
So
first, what'd you name this deer?
Jim Leahy.
And where in the world did that come from?
Trailer Park Boys. I don't know if you've ever seen that.
No, I haven't.
So, he's like the trailer park supervisor or whatever.
Okay.
He's a drunk.
Can I also point out? I'm sorry, I keep interrupting your story. I love your names for bucks, and I really love the fact that you named one of your bucks after one of my friends from grade school. I got a buddy that I've known since the 2nd grade named Jason Tran. and he is not a hunter in any way, shape, or form, but he follows my stuff because we're buddies, and he'll often leave random comments that make no sense on stuff.
Yeah, that's how I got to know Jason Tran.
Right.
He doesn't know who I am,
No.
but I always thought he was funny because of the comments, and I
Nice
knew
catch.
how good of a friend he was of yours, so I'm like, oh, that's a good name for him.
So
he looks like a Jason. Jason Tran fits him.
That's awesome.
You got a big mega 8-pointer named Jason Tran you're hunting.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, he's the one that I want to get next year.
That's what I told
Were you
Jason,
hunting him
and
last
he was
year?
worried.
No, Ross, which was awesome for Ross. Wasn't this the first time you said this buck or nothing?
Yeah, this was the first year that but
Yeah.
you know how that
Flyer
is.
buck
Yeah.
or nothing?
I'm not.
Yeah.
Well,
Right.
that's what I went into the season saying, but
Awesome.
I'm not something
But you were going after him.
Yeah, I wanted to.
You
hold
had
out for him.
history. Yeah.
So sorry. Go back to your story, the history.
It was so like a couple of years prior, I was getting pictures of this buck with super potential. He had like all these. He's one of those like young bucks with all those like little sticker points, and he's got like splits, and it's like, you know, if he makes it a couple more years, he's going to be a really great buck. And I don't know, maybe he was a huge 2-year-old then. He might have been like just an awesome 3-year-old with a lot of potential. I'm not sure. But then the next year, I started getting pictures again, and that year, he had big splits. So he had on the left side, he had big split G2, split G3. On the right side, he had this big inside kicker point. He was just an awesome buck, but he was probably like 130s frame with all that junk. So going into the year, I'm like, man, that's a nice buck, but I didn't really want to shoot him.
This was
but
last
I wanted
year?
to see him. Yeah. This is last year. Yeah, or 2 years ago.
16.
2016.
So there's this on the farm. There's this big like primary scrape. All the bucks hit it in October that are in the area, and come like mid-October to late October, every single buck in that area hits it, and a lot of bucks, even the mature bucks, will hit it in daylight, even in the mornings.
Wow.
So I went down in there when the conditions were right, and I got set up over that scrape, and I got a chance to see him. And he came in, and actually my gut instinct when he came in, he was coming in, I'm like, oh, that's a nice buck. But I never even grabbed my bow. And then when he got past me, he was like 30 yards broadside, and he's going past. I'm like, oh, that's Jim Leahy. And I was like, ooh, maybe. And then I was like kind of panicking, like maybe I should have grabbed my bow, but I shouldn't have. He never he never like got my heart racing or anything, and he shouldn't have, because at that time he just wasn't what I wanted to shoot. So, so he walked, and then later on that year I got a chance to see him again, and he got into like all out. I've seen deer sparring. You hear deer sparring, you see it all the time, but never like an all-out fight,
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, that was incredible. And he was going...
With what other buck?
Kevin Vandeboom. So they were
Who
just,
is that? That's what I want.
He's another mega giant.
yeah, he's 170-inch, just heavy.
Yeah, big
massive
dog.
Yeah.
So the flyer buck's going with it.
Yeah.
Going at it with this guy.
Yeah.
Whatever
this-
happened to
Wow, what a
Vanderboom?
courageous.
Don't know. I don't know where he is. Don't know. Wish I knew.
Wow.
But yeah, it was one of those times you're sitting in the stand. It's just slower than slow, and I don't know if it was mid-afternoon or when it was. It's kind of mid-ish day, and it sounded like two baseball bats. Somebody just cracked them together. Whoa, where you just like kind of jump and you're like, what was that? And I'm looking around, and then you can just see that brown flashing through the timber, and holy cow, it was like just two huge bucks going to town. And it's so funny, because the two. Sorry about that. My microphone wasn't close enough to my mouth. So I'm getting yelled at by Mark over here.
Now it's
Yeah,
too
it's like,
close.
what?
You're turning your head. You're turning your head
headset.
too much.
You
I
need
thought
to
it
invest in 4 headsets, and we'd be fine.
We've already described the fact that Wired to Hunt is not doing very well because I buy Budweiser heavy to drink.
Yeah.
So you can't expect me to afford 4 headsets.
So that was a microphone gesture you were doing?
Yeah, it wasn't.
Yeah, they did.
Okay, I was like, I'm leaving. That's how things work in Hollywood.
Oh my god.
Okay, so talking to the mic.
So right
Ross.
here,
Yeah.
is that good?
That's
a little
pretty
bit
good.
farther away.
There,
No, closer.
Oh, that's tough.
Closer. Farther
Yeah,
away.
this-
Closer.
And suddenly not interested. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry,
Okay,
you're talking about
where were we?
Kevin
Right.
Vanderboom.
Oh
and
yeah,
Jim
whatever.
Leahy were
They got in a
fighting.
fight. Yeah, blah blah
Boy.
blah. So yeah, that was it for that year. And then the next year, got some pictures of him again, except for he didn't have those big splits. He just had a big flyer that was split off the left G2, and then he had like a nice inside point. And this year, he was bigger. He was more like 150s-inch frame with trash. And so I was getting pictures of him. And I'll just keep this story short because I can just talk forever, and
No,
then
it's
people
cool.
would be bored
We
with
wanna
that.
hear
So
the story.
No, that's
so then I wasn't really getting too many pictures of him as much as last year, but then I had a picture on a little food plot, and I got a picture of him coming back into the farm that morning. And so I was like,
What time
shoot,
of year is this?
This was November 7th or something like that, 7th. And so I got a picture of him coming into the farm. So I'm like, well, geez, he's got to be in the area. And chances are he's probably with the doe right now. So it was like a southwest wind. There's a really good doe bedding area in the back of the farm off a bluff. I have a stand set up in this tree. That's
It's a good spot for it.
Yeah.
Let's stand in the tree.
Yeah.
Never mind.
Very
Let me finish.
I
Stand
just
in
had
the
to add
tree
something.
on an inside corner. It's on the inside corner downwind of this bedding area. And so years past too, you bucks will cruise the ridge that's right off the stand and cruise obviously that doe bedding area. So I've been sitting there for quite a while, and then wasn't seeing too much to get the occasional like little dink cruising through. And then all of a sudden I just heard that big, deep, guttural grunt. That's just like unmistakable. You just know it's like that is a big buck.
Can you do that? Because you're pretty good at making grunts.
I don't know if I can do it on the spot.
Whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Good. Real good.
So
Some serious talent over there.
yeah,
It's good.
Hey, can you guys vouch for my
That
elk
was
bugle
solid.
I did yesterday?
Why don't you give us why
I
don't
don't
you give
think
us a taste of
I
that?
think that would blow
No,
up
come
the
on,
speakers.
seriously.
Oh my god.
I will try it. I'm going to pull the mic away from my mouth here.
You're gonna bugle?
I'm going to do a bugle. I'm just with just my mouth. Here we go. The neighbors.
Oh my gosh.
That's some serious talent there, man.
That was
Wow.
as good as it was last time.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay, continuing on.
I can't believe you did
How much
that.
do you practice that at home? Like, what does Kylie say about that?
That's how I bring Kylie in at night to the bedroom.
Yeah. That's why they had a child.
And so Everett was
And
made.
that's how ever it came to be.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, jeez.
Okay.
This is a
Yours-
classic
That's
going
really
down
good,
right
Mark.
now.
Your son will hear this podcast and wow.
Yep.
That was great.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. So back to whatever we were talking
man, I don't
about.
know.
You hear this grunt.
Oh yeah, you heard the grunt.
Yeah, I heard that grunt down in the bottom, and then I knew, okay, there's a big buck down there. But then I heard, like, he'd be chasing around, and then I heard some tending grunts. So I knew, okay, now there's a big buck with the doe down there. But I just could never get a good look at him. It was just like flashes and this and that. And then he occasionally kind of worked his way away from me down the valley, and I could hear him just leaving, and I thought, okay, well, bummer, not going to really see what that was. Great encounter anyways. And then as the night went on, it was like that last 30 minutes, like sun's starting to set, starting to get less light, and then all of a sudden I hear some footsteps, and I look, and here's a doe, and she's kind of coming towards me along the thick ridge, and then I heard that grunt again, that big deep grunt, and I watched a little bit longer, and then I could see Rat coming through the thick stuff. And
I'm going to interrupt real quick. There is nothing better than a deer that's dialed in on his doe.
yeah,
You know
I
what I
agree.
mean? And he's
Yeah.
grunting, and you know they're
That's
coming,
cool.
and he is just so occupied with her. You know nothing else in the world matters to him. I love that.
And then you just pray that doe's gonna come by.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no way you're going to bring him in,
Yeah.
right? It's all up to her on which way she
Yep.
goes, but
Yeah, I was in the right
that's what we live for right there. I mean,
Yeah.
That's the
I was in the right area, but whether they came past
Right.
the stand that day
Yeah.
was just dependent on where she wanted to take him.
yeah.
And she was, I mean, if anybody's ever seen a buck tending a doe like that, they move painstakingly slow. Like it is just slow, and the doe doesn't move much. She's just standing there most of the time. She'll browse a little bit. She'll lay down, and he'll usually give her some room. Unlike, those younger bucks like we see during the rut, like you'll see younger bucks, they'll be chasing does all over the place. Well, we don't see that with mature bucks as much because they're not stupid, and they know not to push the doe around. Like if they're on a hot doe, leave her alone. You'll breed her when
Your
she's
time will
ready.
come,
Yeah. And so he's just sitting there behind her, like 10 yards, and they're just moving so slow that it's to the point where it's like, God, I don't know if I'm gonna have enough time. I don't like they're gonna get here, but it's gonna be dark, and then I'm starting to think, how the heck am I gonna get out of this tree stand?
Huh.
And is it fair to say, Ross, that you are one to worry
No,
about
no,
stuff?
he stays
not-
extremely
no, I'm-
positive all the time.
No.
Were
In this
you-
situation, I was calm.
Were
yeah.
you calm, cool, and collected?
Yeah. Sometimes you
Well,
get
good.
fired up, and most times,
Not this time.
sometimes, yeah. No, I was good.
All right, good.
I don't know.
Nice.
Nice. All right,
Yeah.
sorry.
I'm a killer, Mark.
You are a killer. That's
You
for
really
sure.
are.
And then
I can vouch for that.
You get the job done. Well,
Every year.
usually.
Every
I worry about where to sit. I don't really worry when the
Yeah.
yeah. Perfect tree.
So, yeah. So anyways, she's standing there. She cuts across a little trail. There's an opening, but they're just out of range for a comfortable shot. And she kind of worked her way parallel to me, and then she dropped down into another valley, kind of out of sight. So I thought, well, based on where she went, he's going to follow her. I'm not going to really get a shot. Awesome encounter. That was great. I was just ready to end the night. Successful hunt, even though I didn't get something. So he followed her, did the same thing what I expected, and he was just the whole time he's just raking brush. He's rubbing trees. It's just awesome. Just a great show. And I'm sitting in the tree, and all of a sudden I hear like a little twig snap right next to me, and that doe pops out, and I look down, and I look at that doe, and I look up at him, and I'm like, holy shit, it's going to happen. And that's what I said. I don't even think I said it in my...
You said it out loud.
Yes, I did. I looked at that doe, I'm like, it's going to happen.
Wow.
And she was standing there. He turned and walked straight to me. He stopped at maybe like 20 yards. And at this point, he's facing me. So I'm watching him, and my eyes are going back and forth. I'm watching him. I'm watching her, waiting for her to make a step to see if he moves and takes a turn. So she did take a step, and she actually decided to go back the way she came. And for her to come out where she was, there was no reason for her to do that. Like, it made no sense. I don't even know why she did that, but I'm glad she did.
Yeah.
And so she made a move to go back, and he like immediately did that spin to go back the way he came. So he wasn't gonna like parallel to me and go broadside. He just spun. And at that time I knew, like, and that's one of those things probably just where experience, you just know what to do at that time. Because I mean, most people would have probably he would have spun and they would have drew, and then they would have never stopped him. But I'm pretty sure, I don't even know what happened. It was like a blur, but you draw and stop him at the same time, and I'd stop him just in time where I could tuck it right behind his shoulder.
So he was quartering away.
Really, really strong. But where I was comfortable and I could make a great shot, I hit him right behind the back ribs, and that buck went down like less than 5 seconds. He was down.
Wow.
And yeah, that was an incredible hunt. It was awesome.
And so he talked about him a little more. I mean, he's got like an 8-inch flyer, palmated.
Yeah, I think it's like a how long? I think it was 7. It was like 7 inches, and then it forks. It's real thick.
Yeah.
Kind of webbed, and then forks off. It's a great
Really
buck. He's
cool
like
deer.
19 inches wide.
Did he lose a little rack? Didn't he break off some smaller stuff?
Yeah, he did. He had like a big curly kind of point. He probably would have grossed 170 if he had that.
Yeah.
But he busted that off, which.
Whatever.
But that's another thing about this buck. He was kind of like like I mentioned before, I saw him fighting Kevin Vandeboom, and
Bringing the boom.
and the other years he was always busted up. So that was one of my fears. Like this year, I was like, if I'm gonna kill him, I got to kill him early because he's gonna be busted up by November. Fortunately, this year he just busted off that one point and kept everything else all intact.
Incredible.
But yeah, it was a great hunt.
That's awesome.
It was awesome.
That is awesome.
The best part was when I killed him, I knew he was down right away, and I texted you guys at the group text or whatever.
Yeah, you were horrible about it.
I love doing that to you guys.
We really, really get mad about it. You're the worst. Because we've got.
What'd you leave everybody hanging?
Oh yeah, I love doing that. I'm like, I just shot Jim Leahy, and then they're all like texting back and forth.
Picks or it didn't happen. That's what we always say. Picks or it didn't happen.
And then some of the guys are like, who's Jim Leahy? And then they're sending pictures. Oh my god, And
it's this one because we've been seeing pictures, but Dusty and Andy
then I'm
didn't
texting
remember.
back, man, guys, I don't know, it's gonna be a long night, and stuff like that. And then
you kept him on the hook all night.
oh, I love doing that.
He's notorious bad about
Ross
that.
and I we live closer, so I get some off the
You get the
off to the
group
side
text
text.
messages.
Yeah,
you
and
get
I'm
the
like,
top secret.
I go, what the hell are you doing to those guys? He goes, just wait till tomorrow. Don't say anything. I'm like, oh.
Well, you guys want pictures all the time, and I was by myself, and it was dark, and I couldn't take a decent picture.
I always get
you're
a
the
lousy
guy that-
picture
yeah,
first, though.
So I just took a picture of that flyer and I sent it
Sent
to
that.
him.
I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, buddy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That was awesome.
That
awesome
is
hunt.
sweet.
That was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
That was exciting. And then I think if I remember right, you killed Jim Leahy, and then you texted us about it that morning, and that was the morning that Furter killed his buck. Me and Furter were in Ohio.
Oh yeah.
I remember getting the text messages from you in the morning.
Or did he kill him the same day? No.
I think you killed your buck the night before, but you were telling us about him the next morning.
Yeah, because that's when you decided to tell people.
Yeah. So you were texting us about Jim Leahy, and then I am seeing Furter's buck come running by me. And I'm like, oh, jeez, there's buck. And then that whole thing
Yeah, that was
happened.
a good couple days.
It was. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was awesome.
All right, let's pause here real quick for a word from our partners at Whitetail Properties.
This week with Whitetail Properties, we are joined by Rich Baugh, a land specialist out of southeastern Iowa. And Rich is going to be telling us about how he patterns mature bucks without educating them.
So what I like to do is figure out where a buck's living. And so during the late summer and early fall months, I'll run trail cameras around my farm, probably one for every 40 to 60 acres, and try to figure out where the different mature bucks are living. You really have to keep an eye on that, once October and November get here, because they often tend to disperse and move around a little bit. But I still use cameras, and I have them in areas where I'm not going to disturb the deer to check them. One of the things that's key to me is I just don't pressure deer in early October. I figure out where they're living, where they feed, and then really don't hunt them until the last week of October, first week of November, when I know they're going to be on their feet before dark and still on their feet after daylight. Otherwise, you risk educating them and making them go nocturnal.
If you'd like to learn more and to see the properties that Rich currently has listed for sale, visit whitetailproperties.com/Baugh. That's BAUGH.
So Ben had a great little story there. You had a great story there, Peter. What from this season do you want to talk about from your 2017 season? Is there anything that stood out?
Yeah,
experience. Oh, we had some great experiences. Yeah. I as a chiropractor, we're very busy during.
I'm talking deer hunting.
No, but I'm saying, yeah. With my
I had this one patient.
I don't take off a lot. I don't take off a lot of time. So.
Tell them about the plan for next year in that public land spot. That'd be good. Good thing to talk about.
Years ago, I hunted the state land spot, and I could see this river bottom from where I was. And at about 9:30, 10 o'clock, just a giant walked through there, and I put it in put it in your mind, but you just don't think about why he's there at that time in the morning. So it was the last. One of the last 80-degree days, in the middle of October. So Ross and I went and scouted down there for just to walk the property, this state land. We bumped a buck that went through the water and to the other side, so we decided to scout a little bit better, found some early season scrapes and some rubs, and I said, well, I'll just sit up in here, tomorrow or the next weekend. And lo and behold, it kind of rained, didn't it?
I don't remember.
Well, I set up on that deer. It came back in. It was like a 120, so we let him go. And but I wanted to be in a different spot from where I was. But when I got in there, it was pitch dark. So long story short, set up in a different tree than I wanted to. So based on that experience years ago, I said, I'm going to stay a little later because I think I stayed till 9:30 or 10, and I thought maybe something mature would come down. But we didn't know why. I think because it was misting.
At that time, yeah.
I just had that experience. I'm going to test it, and it was raining, so I thought they might freshen up stuff. Sure enough, this mass monster came down and just went to the one tree where I wanted to be by, freshened up that scrape, went right back into the
This
timber.
is on that public land.
Yeah, so that's mass
monster.
monster.
When you say a monster, what are you talking about?
If it's an 8-point or 140 all day, real thick,
Wow.
and then if it was a 10, it was a pretty good size.
That's awesome.
And then so that way that hunt I took the long way, and then there's another way you can go just straight down a ridge, pair of waders, and be up on it. So I started doing that for the rest of the year, and moved in to where that deer was freshening up that scrape, and then a different buck came in equally as impressive. This one was, gosh.
Well,
that frame was 180 frame, but that thing was.
Yeah, that was beautiful deer.
So
huge.
He came in kind of like you'd want a deer to come in, and just was a little too far up. So.
But now you got a good spot for next year because now you know why the bucks are doing that, and you know where to be in October.
I think it's they talk about that primary scrape. I think it might be one, and it's a certain time frame. I think I hunted a little bit later, and it wasn't as good. So, yeah. So that's that. I'd say well, the first weekend was like
21st?
early 21st or
22nd,
something, and that's when that mass monster came. And then the next weekend I went down there again in that big 8 or big 9 with just a huge frame. Yeah.
Is that the one that you had the similar situation to me, sort of, where you got caught off guard a little bit?
Yeah, if you want to dig a little deeper, we can do that.
Please.
I was watching. We used to be able to hunt the private behind that, so I was watching this valley, and there's always deer in there. So I was kind of scoping back there, and it's probably 7:30, 7:45, prime time. So I'm just watching back there because I did notice during another hunt that a deer did cross the water, and it was a buck. So I'm like, well, I'll just check what's going on. And as I turn around with my binoculars in my hand, that's when that real nice second buck came through, and I was not ready for him. So, yeah, the shot would have been my out of reach for me possibly, but it was just nice to see. So,
Well, don't feel bad about getting caught off guard. It
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
happens to many of us in this room,
yeah,
or at least one other person. So, yeah, we were talking about some other stuff the other night, Peter. I don't know if you want to talk about this or not, but some of the thoughts around
sure, yeah,
just, how to get more comfortable in those moments, or some of the things that you're talking about wanting to work on this coming year.
For me, it's got to be at the moment of right there. Like Corey talked to me about after, because why at that time were you looking behind you with your binoculars when those deer were out of your reach anyways? I mean, he goes, at that time, 7:45 or 7, just as it's gray light to whenever, my bow's in my hand ready. He goes, they're going to come in like ghosts in the darkness, and just be ready. So,
You ever seen that movie?
oh, it's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
Good movie.
You ever seen that, Ross?
Yeah.
Negative.
Ghost in the Darkness.
I can't stay up through any movies, even if it's
This
like
one you-
Rambo at 4:00 in the afternoon.
Give this one
I'm
a try.
narcoleptic. I'll check it out. What is?
You got Val Kilmer, and you got
Awesome.
not Michael Jackson,
Michael Jordan.
not Michael Keaton, not Michael Jordan,
Douglas?
Michael Douglas. Thank you,
Yeah.
Michael Douglas.
And he plays Remington.
Yeah, Remington.
Which is cool.
Val Kilmer.
'Kay.
And basically, this is talking about the man-eating lions. I think it's the man-eaters of Sava.
Okay.
Yeah, and
There
they're
was
in
this-
the Chicago Museum.
They're in the Chicago Museum of Natural History,
Yeah.
and there was this railroad trying to be built through Africa. I don't remember.
Yeah,
all
and
the
they were
details.
stuck at a bridge point trying to get the bridge built.
And
Okay.
these two lions killed, I don't remember what the number, an astronomical number of people.
20s, 30s.
Yeah. And so the movie talks about this whole situation. They ended up bringing a professional hunter in to try to kill these man-eaters, and
Yeah.
it's intense.
Check it out.
So the ghosts in the darkness are what Peter's trying to prepare for.
Yes. Traditionally,
Could you imagine sitting next to a tree with man-eating lions
No,
walking around? Could
Not at all.
you be prepared for that moment?
I have enough gunpowder at home. That's for sure. My dad was Pistol
Attaboy.
Pete, so but
So sorry. Yes, continue.
no, it's been my problem continually each year is the moment of truth, getting that shot. Or I can get on deer all day. I see a lot of deer, so I'm fortunate that way. But moment of truth is just not something I've had a lot of practice with. So.
And I think that it's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Or
Tons of
I
people
or
struggle.
I will wait for that perfect shot. I mean, I think about how many times I've had good sized deer there, and I'm fairly picky too at times. But I'm like, it's not. I'm thinking, would have Corey have shot? Would Ross have shot? Most likely, but for me, it just didn't feel right. So
I think Ross alluded to something too when you were talking about you have so much experience in these moments. When Jim Leahy started to do that turn, you'd been through that before. You'd seen that before. You knew, okay, I need to stop and draw and take that shot right now. And you knew, yeah, it was a fast moment, but you understood that you had the time, you were comfortable with that. But to Peter's point, if
yeah.
you hadn't been through that, or if you hadn't, had been fortunate enough to kill a good number of deer and go through that, it's a lot harder to handle those moments of truth. And that's why, and everyone's got to do their own thing.
yeah,
But I do think it is helpful to, when you're getting into hunting, to kill some does, to kill some younger bucks, to take it in one step up the ladder at a time. At least that's what worked well for me. But I know you're figuring out your own kind of path too.
well, the year I did shoot that decent buck up in the same vicinity, I remember I went in. I go 130 or better, and I saw it come in. Never looked at the head again, and unfortunately the shot wasn't true. And I did see the buck the next day. He ran off with an arrow in him, but so it can work for me. It's just a matter of making it work for me.
Can I psychoanalyze you
Please do.
on the air?
Yeah.
So have you ever thought about changing your what you want to shoot for your bow buck?
For some reason, I want it huge. I don't
You
know
want
why.
it? Yeah, you've been very picky about that. And why? Why is this?
There's probably a little bit of anxiety about making the correct shot.
So you're saying
Killing doesn't come easy to me. I don't
Right.
think it comes easy for a lot of people.
Right.
But just for me, maybe not so much. Maybe there's a little bit of that's my dad's buck. I never really talked about that before.
What do you mean?
He's passed, and he'll never get a chance. So I want that bow one to be just
Pretty special.
yeah. Maybe that's unrealistic, but yeah.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, so
Interesting. Now, what
Yeah.
about does? Have you changed your opinion a little bit? Do you want to shoot a doe? We talked about this a little bit. You've been reluctant to do that in the past.
I think if I get myself more dialed in, it might be something easier. I picked up a 20 acres in, I can't really say the town, but just 20 acres in the outskirts of my town. And he's an 80-year-old man. And he's like, he doesn't understand this whole, it's subsistence. Let's shoot this deer for substance. And he goes, Peter, you're going to get a doe here. I'm like, so I could see that maybe happening now.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
There's nothing better.
I guess I always think there's a buck coming.
Right.
So why would I?
I was
Yeah.
worried that
Yeah.
the one time you do let the arrow fly and shoot
Yeah.
that doe, then there's the big buck
Yeah.
walking right behind her.
Yeah.
Yeah. October 1. Go out there first day, or October 2 or something.
Yeah.
On a
I mean, I
spot.
mentally got to decide that before I even go hunting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
decision you got to
Yeah.
make and plan for.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what.
Killing's heavy duty, man. It's a heavy deal.
Well, there's times I considered, should I just be a camera guy?
Hey,
You know?
it's not. I feel like, boy, this is such a complicated subject, but
I mean, in Upper Michigan I'm from, I've shot several deer,
yeah,
small forkies and things, and it never felt great, but I've done it.
you shoot them with a bow, or
Never
with a
bow.
gun, and shooting them at close quarters. You put an arrow through them is a way more intimate. If that's not, I don't even know if that's the right word.
Oh, I
but
think
it's
it
a way
is.
more
Yeah, I think it's the
intimate
right word.
experience than shooting them with a gun. And I think most people that have any sort of I don't want to say moral compass. Boy, I could be pissing a lot of people off here, but killing is something that is a powerful moment, and it's sincerely it's obviously resonating with you.
Yeah, Mark and I talked. I live in the city, so I shot my deer, and I shoot in my backyard. But if my wrist flicks, my arrow's in the neighbor's yard. I'm looking for. I'm like, well, this isn't good.
Yeah.
It's kind of selfish on my point to be doing that. So I don't make it a priority to get to a spot to shoot very often. So I'm only shooting 20 yards in my yard or whenever.
And that's
so,
something you're
so
working on, right?
in reality, if you look at a hunter, I'm responsible for that shot. So if I'm going out there without
a lot of
the most confidence,
Yeah.
I just won't take it then.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to kill this thing, and this is
Yeah.
going to be
If it's 30, like that buck that came in, Corey or Ross could have shot. It was 35 yards. It's beautiful. I wasn't ready because I wasn't looking, but if I would have been ready, would I have still taken a shot? Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's some world-class hunters that only take 25-yard shots.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having
So and that's their decision. So I learned from them. I mean, that's what they do.
Yeah, everyone's got to set whatever they're comfortable with. That's
but I have a buddy
100%
who's
right.
an amazing shot in Upper Michigan. He knocked one down at 50 because he was comfortable because he shoots at 100.
Yeah.
He doesn't do it all the time, but no wind, conditions were right. Boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the goal for this year, Peter?
Oh, we got to practice more.
There you go.
Yeah.
But at the end of the 2018 season, when the season's done and you look back on it, okay, so one goal is that you want to have practiced more with your bow.
Yeah.
What other goals do? And it could be a kill goal, or it could be anything else. Or what would be your goals by the end of the season you hope to accomplish?
Let's see. Well, kill a deer. I got to make it just special for me. That's about it. I've got properties where I've got big deer, and I got properties where I have decent deer. So I seem to have always waited for that big one, and if it doesn't happen, so it's maybe just get that 130 on the ground. I've got enough of those. 120. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is 130 what feels right? Like that's like for the special
138. I seem to find 8-pointers.
138 inches.
Yeah, that'd be great.
138 inches or a 130-inch 8-pointer, you're saying?
Yeah.
He's saying 130-inch 8-pointer.
130-inch 8-pointer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or
yes.
140-10. Yeah.
thought-
Yeah, it sounds terrible to put these kind of unrealistic, or just to say that. Like,
Right.
well, it has to be this. It could be just anything. But
Or does it come down to something like me and Dan were
I
talking
guess
about this a few weeks ago? It's
yeah.
like you just have that feeling, like that. Oh,
maybe that's it. Yeah.
But maybe that kind of buck for you is what you've found gives you that factor.
Yeah.
And I think some of this is framed by where you live and hunt. You live and hunt in Iowa, where there are lots and lots and lots of big deer relative to a lot of other places. I think if you lived in Michigan or you lived in Pennsylvania or you lived in wherever, and if you hadn't come out here and seen and experienced all this, take for example when you moved to Iowa. When you first came out here, you were seeing 80-inch 8-pointers, and you were thrilled and off the wall, right?
The first 120, I'm like, wow. And Ross is like, settle down. That's
right.
That's a basket.
Ross, you stud over there.
No. When we first came
it
down
was
here,
terrible.
I was shooting a lot of 2-year-olds. Like, itchy trick. Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
Everything looks big.
Most likely, I should just shoot a deer to get it out, anything to get it out of the system, to build the confidence.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of reality to that.
And that's an admirable thing, man.
Yeah.
Going out there and just in taking an animal and being happy with it, regardless of what anybody else thinks. I mean, that's
because muzzleloader, I killed a beautiful buck and shot it right through the heart. Died within 30 feet, 30 yards where I shot him, and it was great. Yeah.
And I think I would.
The gun is less intimate. I mean, but it's a competence.
Yeah. And
sure.
I would never want to try to impose on you, and I hope we're not doing that now.
No, but that's the biggest thing is your values are yours, mine are mine, and mine are great, so are yours.
Yes, and so if you want to hold out for a special buck, more power to you. Nothing wrong with that at all. But
but I can't.
From a pragmatic standpoint.
But seriously, I can't call myself a hunter. I am a guy who goes out hunting.
Well,
does not kill. I'm not a killer. Maybe that's it. Yeah.
And from a purely pragmatic standpoint, though.
Yeah.
Simply from what will help you be more successful as a hunter, killing more does or taking a first step and killing the first buck you get a chance there. So doing that a few times will help you in the future. I mean, I know you know this. We've talked about it. I mean, this isn't rocket science. Yeah. But if there's nothing wrong with choosing not to do that, but it's something to consider. Like Ross said, those experiences are what help prepare you for the moment when you do have that special buck in front of you. It's a lot harder to do that in if the very first buck you ever shoot with a bow is a 160-inch mega giant or something. That's a tough moment to handle the first time. Now I know you've shot at other deer too, but
no, we got the story where I think we shared it last podcast where that 150 8-pointer came in, jumped the fence, did everything, read the script. I shot a gangster style because of how I had to, and my wrist must have flicked at the last. What
release. Is this wrist flicking thing you keep saying that you do?
Well, I do it. I used to shoot my condo, and for some reason my wrist would flick.
Target panic or something?
Could be. Yeah.
In your condo?
Yeah.
You hit the wall?
Yeah. My wife was not impressed. Yeah.
There's one time I was shooting in the basement of a place we were renting. And I had the target set up, and the arrow went through the target, and it hit the water pipe.
Below the shutoff valve.
Below the shutoff valve to 8 units.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Talk about, what is that? Do you say type 2 or level 2?
Usually type 2. Is that type 2 fun?
Yeah. Like, it was it was a terrible experience at the time, but now it's hilarious when I think about it. But, water just, it was just so much force coming out everywhere. I was filling up coolers and running up until like a plumber came.
I can only imagine you were looking like at that moment.
Big mistake. So be careful when you're shooting in the house.
Oh my gosh,
because even when you hit the target, it still can.
You should
cause problems.
Blind bail, man. Do you ever blind bail? You know what that is?
I think there's a podcast. The guy talked.
We talked about with Levi.
Just at 10 yards and 5 yards, and just boom, boom, boom.
3 yards.
Yeah.
No, just know you're not gonna miss. And you shoot with your eyes closed, and you get used to the release of the arrow, and you feel that arrow send, and you don't react to it. It just goes, and you do that with your eyes closed, and you build confidence internally.
Yeah.
I mean,
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think in some respects, I thought about this year. I go, maybe I should learn I know everything about scouting, hunting. I could relay a lot of stuff. When I get in a train, it's a little different. Then the textbook goes away, and you're like, how do you read this? So I'm probably a good B on that stuff. A lot of other stuff A. But knowing a bow and probably a C. I don't,
Yeah, I think that.
To me, it's a tool. I'll go grab it and use it. But how do I know it better?
Yeah.
How do I know what these, some of the how the setup is, how that works for you?
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
And I think you sharing your experiences right here and some of your struggles and your thoughts stuff. This is really helpful stuff for a lot of people. It's important stuff to talk about because I think so much of what you get in the hunting media today, and sometimes we're guilty of this too. We've got the best deer hunters in the world on here who seem invincible and they're ice cold, and oh my gosh, this guy kills 4 big mature bucks every year. It can seem kind of daunting, like, how can I stack up to that? It's important to remember that we're all just people. We all make mistakes, and each one of us are at a different place, and we have our own struggles and challenges. And I think hearing about stuff you're going through and the decisions and things you're trying to figure out.
If you look back to the old videos, I had a lot of deer in there, but never killed.
Yeah, you've certainly seen a lot. You've had encounters and you've had opportunities, but it's not easy to take that final step.
Yeah. Well, we always talk about what you think about, you bring about. I never think about the kill part. I always thought about all the other stuff involved with hunting. Yeah, it's interesting.
It is. You talk a lot about one time where one time we
I tend to use humor to escape the reality of not shooting.
One time we're down here shed hunting and we get into Peter's truck and we hadn't been riding him. We hadn't been riding with him. So no one had been in his truck prior to this. So we hop into his car and we turn on the truck.
So I had my phone in my pocket. I was outside, and in my circle, you record self-affirmations. You hear
he's really big on self-improvement, different things like that.
Yeah, so you tell yourself stuff enough, it's going to just implant in your subconscious, and your body has nothing. Your mind will attract it to you.
Sure. So the car comes on, and then on the speakers, really loud, it says, Peter Lynch, you will gross X $100,000 a year, or whatever it was. Peter Lynch, you will do
That's
He
nice.
was repeating these goals over and over. And we just died.
That's funny.
Did you achieve your goal?
Yes, I have.
Attaboy.
Well, to your point though about
my practice
yes.
gets that income.
I don't know what the dollar amount was.
But yeah.
But to the point of visualization.
But if you don't put that into your hobby, it's not going to be the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Ross, I know Ross, he manifests everything into his life because he thinks about it. Corey. All Corey thinks about is bucks. You saw that today.
Yeah.
He actually is a buck.
I think I saw him make a scrape.
He was
like,
I did see him piss on his back legs a little bit.
Yeah. Kind of rubbed them together, looked back, and just carried on.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But, something I do, to your point about handling that moment of the truth, I'm betting, Ross, you probably do this maybe. I think you've talked about it. Maybe you do too, Ben. But when I get into a tree stand, I get all set up. Once I'm all settled in, one of the very first things I do is I look at each one of my different shooting lanes or different places where a deer might be able to come through. And I imagine, okay, if there's a buck coming through here, and I visualize a buck coming through this way, I actually will make sure I can draw back my bow. I visualize, hold my bow, draw it back. Okay, could I shoot there? Yep. Could I imagine I'm visualizing a deer come this direction? Okay, imagine drawing back. Yep, I can get a shot there. I will do that in every different way. So you think through what that scenario will look like. You're also seeing, can I maneuver? Can I get my arm drawn back? Can I do all these different things? If that happened. And I think that really helps me.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid when I'd shoot in the backyard in Upper Michigan, just with those basic bows, you pull back, boom, let go.
Mm-hmm.
And remember the deer that deer I did shoot with the bow and it penetrated. And remember when I got up there, everything was perfect. That's the one where I said, I'm going to get a 130. I saw the deer. I identified it was a shooter. I didn't look at it again. I actually had the camera perfect, pulled back. And then when I got through the peep sight, I'm like, where am I? Because I couldn't identify where. I had to look away and come back again. And then that was it.
Yeah.
That's where it went a half inch high. Put that right in the shoulder blade. Penetrated maybe an inch, 2 inches, and deer lived. So.
Yeah, it's all those 1,000 tiny little things in the last 1 second can go wrong, and it's.
Mm-hmm. We've all been there, brother.
Oh yeah.
Battling,
yes, we have.
Battling the inner demons, and if you want to, if it's important to you to work through them, it'll happen, And so.
Yeah. Anyone that's listened to this podcast has heard that I've had plenty of my own struggles that way too. So
Yeah.
Dan Johnson as well.
We all have, absolutely.
We all have. So, well, I hope that we get you on here in the fall of 2018, Peter.
Sure.
With your story of the successful hunt. Me and Corey always talk about you a lot, Peter.
I know. I feel it.
And we talk, you know what, when Peter does get that buck, it's going to probably be the biggest buck that any of us have ever killed. You probably will end up that first one's
It's
going
going
to
to be that one in the public land that he was talking about, the big frame.
Yeah, I'd like to see him again.
like a 165
Next
a J
year.
pointer or something.
But then
Yeah.
that property, again, that little property had it's a 20, and it was pretty amazing. A lot of big deer I had all year, and I didn't see too many during the hunting time frame, but I felt like a monster could come from this ridge through the prairie grass, through this little 20, to go somewhere else to check does. And I had sat too long the day before. I was really extremely crabby. All day sit too early.
I remember this.
Yeah.
You were crabby, too.
Yeah, I was like, oh, next
the
day I
group
could barely sleep. And Ross texted me, let's get breakfast. I'm like, yes. So as I'm walking back from my stand
Yes.
through this 20, and my truck is only 500 yards away, I can see it. And that's hard, let's go. We can do it. There was a 165 or 170 coming through the prairie grass like I kind of thought would happen, and it didn't happen.
Because you were already walking
I was already walking.
to go get breakfast.
Yeah.
Sorry
And-
about that.
Yeah, it's all right,
yeah,
buddy.
you should blame it all on Ross.
Who knows if that deer would have came back by where I was, but I think I could have saw him. So
That's something.
could have saw him and just let him go by me because I didn't shoot him. Joking, of course. But
Joking, of course.
yeah,
All right, Peter.
yeah.
Any final thoughts from you? Any final things you want to cover?
No, I think we're good. Oh, well,
Bigfoot?
why I love hunting Bigfoot, that's maybe for another time.
You are a Squatch believer, aren't you?
It's just entertaining.
Like it's
Not a
it's
believer.
entertaining to
No, it's
believe in?
entertainment.
Okay.
Yeah, if you get lost on YouTube, go down a rabbit hole, like, oh, Bigfoot, let's check it out. And you're listening to it. And
Squatch.
Sure, you're there.
Okay, so
But
Ross made a buck grunt, and I made an elk bugle. I heard you can do a pretty good Squatch call.
I don't know.
You've sent us a video of you making a Squatch call before.
Yeah.
Ross
is kind of an instigator.
Sounds like a World War II air raid
That's
siren.
what he said. Yeah. Come on.
Well, should I do it really loud?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Just move the speakers away.
I kind of like that guy of the group that is the.
You're good at it.
Yeah.
Embrace
Thank
it.
you, Ross. Appreciate that.
But you are the wild card of our group.
Yeah, I am the wild card.
Especially when Dan's not here.
Yeah.
You're the wild card.
Ben, have you ever heard one of these before?
Never. I'm waiting.
Oh,
Right.
you're
I
ready.
can't wait.
It's supposed to
Should
sound
I
like a
pull the
World
earphones
War II air raid siren, and we'll do it for your audience because this is what they're tuning in for.
Now, is that a male or female? Is it a mating
Is that
call?
a moose?
That's an alpha male because I did it.
Oh,
That's an alpha squatch.
Yeah.
Alpha
Yeah.
Squatch.
And then it's important to be doing gifting. I gifted a little bit of your property today, just so you know.
What's
Yeah.
that mean?
Snickers and apples. Just leave them there.
For Squatch?
Yeah. Yeah.
What does this do for them?
Keep them on the property.
It just keeps them there, and
Yeah.
there
Because
was
they're
no.
kind of hostile, aren't they?
Well, there was no tree breaking.
What does that mean?
Would you, if you ran into squatch, would you mess with them or
No, I
would
would
you
leave.
align with
I
them?
would leave.
You would leave?
They're dangerous. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Messing
Yeah.
with them.
To see again, rabbit hole on YouTube where you just listen to stuff like, wow, there's a whole world subculture
Well,
out there.
tell us what we need to watch out for.
Yeah.
All right, so let's say you're in said stand,
All right.
What?
said stand, the stand where you're hunting,
You're in a stand. Okay,
Yes.
sorry.
and we've all had this where everything goes quiet, so there could be a predator nearby. But if there's, oh gosh, I can't believe I'm putting myself out here like this.
Remember,
let it
this
go,
is the guy
bro.
go to his chiropractic practice.
Yeah, shit.
Sticking with Ross.
But it's just purely entertainment. And so then the people say, if you smell sewer next to you, there's probably a Sasquatch running around trying to get you. You're going to get a whole new audience because you're going to subtitle Sasquatch in the talking points, and people are going to tune into this.
We're going to tag
You're
Sasquatch
welcome.
a lot in this podcast.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, yeah, sorry, continue.
And that's about it.
Oh, that was it.
No,
Yeah.
he smells sewer gas. That's a problem, right?
Yeah, because they smell atrocious. So if you're, the whole point of this is, there's this book called 411, David Paulides, Missing, and it kind of gets into this. So it's an interesting book about disappearances on national parks. We're going down a different. We're going somewhere.
Oh,
But this is
It really is interesting,
we need
Peter.
to keep rolling.
There's a lot more.
yeah. So it's just
Tree knocking.
yeah, tree knocking. Well, you were knocking last week.
I hang with a weird crew here, Ben.
Well, when it's snowing out and you're shed hunting, it's like, what else are we gonna do? So,
What is tree knocking?
oh gosh, that's when we must have watched Bobo on Discovery, Finding Bigfoot. Where they hit a tree with a stick,
I don't have
and
cable.
that's how
you call them in?
that's how they communicate with each other.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of like
Oh gosh.
SOS for Sasquatch.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, well, it's like a Sasquatch will say, "I'm over here," and then it could be communicating to another Sasquatch over here that there's these
How
people.
many are there around?
There are these people. Yeah.
How are there this many that they have an intricate communication system?
Sasquatch
and
are
we've
like
never
the geese.
seen them?
They have a sentinel who will sit high and watch everything and communicate to the others.
And then they knock on trees
Yes.
to let others know.
Yeah. Oh, you must have been reading about this.
No, I'm learning.
No, you're kind of inspiration here.
Well,
So I don't know. Yeah, where got it.
Wow.
All right. Well, it's been nice.
It's been
But
good.
nice knowing you, Mark. Thanks for having me on the podcast again. Until next year.
Any final thoughts, Peter? We'll go around the horn here and wrap it
No,
up.
I just think it's been a great day. Thank you for letting us walk the property. Appreciate
welcome.
it. Yeah.
You're welcome, man.
Yeah.
Good time. Ross, any thoughts?
Ben, thanks a lot. It was a great time. Great people.
Yeah, that was
And
pretty nice.
everybody's just awesome. And I think it was just super fun watching everybody get excited finding those sheds. I kind of just hung back and watched everybody. It was awesome. And
Because Ross will pick up 20
If
next
I
weekend.
I wish that if I wasn't worried about finding sheds myself, what I should have been doing was I should have stood on a hill and just videotaped the whole thing and just seen
yeah, that would have been
everyone
great.
scatter and all the excitement.
It was quite entertaining. That would have been great.
Yeah.
It was a great time. Shed hunting is just awesome because deer hunting a lot of times it's solo, and everybody kind of does their own thing. But getting together shed hunting, you can. When else can you mess around in the woods like that with a group of people and have a good time and
Yeah, for sure.
have some good laughs, and you don't get to really do that during deer season as much unless you have like a deer camp or something like that. So,
good
I
stuff.
always look forward to this time of year.
Yeah.
We need
Ben?
a deer camp.
No, I'm really glad you guys came down. Had an absolute blast. Mission accomplished today, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we found some sheds, but more importantly, we had a ton of fun, and it was awesome getting to know you guys a little bit.
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of good things about you, so it was great to spend a day with you. And going back to Shed Rally, I mean, it's pretty rewarding whenever you get some people out there that don't necessarily have any familiarity with hunting or anything, and you can let them into our world a little bit, and we need to do more of that is what it comes down to.
Yeah, right on.
And we're not going to get into this big I'm not going to get on this big pulpit or whatnot, but it's a good thing to introduce somebody to the outdoors, and hey, we did that today.
Yeah, shed hunting is a good way to do that.
Absolutely.
Just a fun excuse to walk in the woods and enjoy camaraderie and have a good time.
Yeah.
So we did it. Awesome. Well, I'll just I'll end with a little plug for our buddy. If you need a map for your property, Ben makes the best ones out there. You do some awesome work with Huntera maps. I love my maps. I got them on the wall behind me. So I sit there at the computer desk working, and then I can spin around and look up there and daydream and think about where I'd rather be, in a tree.
Yeah. I sent one to my brother for Christmas, and he hadn't heard of Huntera, and he's blown away. It's going to be on a picture frame, basically, in our house or
that's
his
cool.
cabin.
Awesome.
So he's pretty pumped.
It's very cool. And as we alluded to earlier, the mobile map was a really cool tool today too. So
Yeah, super useful. So glad you guys like them.
yeah, keep up the good work, man. And where can we find that stuff online?
Huntera.com. That's where we are. We ramped up our social media presence. We're doing a lot of posts with Instagram and Facebook, so look us up on there as well.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Looking
Thank
forward to Shed Rally 2019.
Yeah.
Peace.
And that's a wrap, folks. Hope you enjoyed this strange, wandering, bizarre conversation. We certainly enjoyed it, at least. So just a final reminder, like I said at the very beginning, we've got the live podcast this Saturday, March 17th, 2018. Really hope to see you guys there, and hope to share a cold beverage with you as well at the podcast or afterwards at the BHA Pint Night. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then finally, just want to say thank you to our partners for making all this possible. So big thanks to Sitka Gear, Yeti Coolers, Matthews Archery, Maven Optics, Whitetail Institute of North America, Trophy Ridge, and Huntera Maps. And finally, thank you all for listening. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for tuning in and tagging along for all of our adventures over the years. I appreciate it so much. And until next time, stay wired to hunt.
I'm sure a lot of you guys remember the old ceremonial hunting tradition of eating the heart out of the first animal you kill. Meat from those organs are among the most nutrient-rich foods on the planet. You can get those same benefits your ancestors craved via convenient daily capsules from Heart and Soil. Find out more at heartandsoil.co. And remember, use code MeatEater for 10% off your purchase. You ever get that feeling the walls closing in, the concrete jungle suffocating you? You crave some wide open spaces, the chance to connect with nature, maybe in a spot all your own. Well, head over to land.com. They've got ranches, forests, mountains, streams, you name it. Search by acreage. You can search by location. You can search by the kind of hunting and fishing you're dreaming of. Land.com. It is where the adventure begins.